music multiverse listeners, and welcome to Beyond Your Radio. It's Unknown Sundays time. Yeah, it's time to talk about a band, an artist, or something in the multiverse of music that might be relatively unknown, needs a little explanation, might be missed that our watchers, collectors, listeners could appreciate. Maybe something, an interesting rabbit hole to go down, something to make a connection here, to make a connection there. This is your first time here. Welcome. Of course, this is an extension of the article section of beyondyourradio.com where I write these things and put them all down. There's a little bit of links here and there that related to whatever this article is. But this is the video side of this that you just get me speaking and maybe some of the music too. If you're not subscribed yet and you're looking for interesting connections, rabbit holes of music to explore, show you the way, just one of our many shows that lead to these kind of things, try us out. Please feel free to leave a comment. I always respond to everyone. Of course, if you like what we do, we hit the little click of that like button so the algorithm knows a little something. So what is this going on today, right? You see this behind me, the year of the horse. It's the year of the horse, 2026, according to the Zodiac. Now, I like to always start off the year knowing this kind of thing. It's senseless, really, though. But hey, I'm not going to get into the origin story of how it even relates in the years, and I'm not going to get into that clever kind of stuff at all. That's for other channels, websites, pontiffs. What I'm here on Unknown Sundays for this is to discover, ascertain, and scroll the meaning, strength, and attachment of such an animal to the music multiverse in a year that names it directly. Of course, the Fire Horse, too, actually, which there is a band called Fire Horse, if you're willing to take a look for that. I'm also going to go back in time to the power of that same word in the music industry back in the years prior that were also in that 12-year cycle. I'm not going to get too long-winded, and I'm certainly not going to have a true, honest point to it, maybe. Or maybe I will. But it's meant as a rabbit hole, these explorations and pontifications of just how, why, and maybe what to come when it comes to this word horse or horses, and how it has come to be a fairly iconic presence in music. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. You know the song title. You know the lyrical line. You know the band. How do you come to that lyric? Doesn't make sense, really, does it? Wild horses can't really drag anyone away. They don't have an opposable thumb, and they certainly wouldn't have anybody tied to anything. They could maybe lure someone away who was attempting to either catch one, a stallion, or photography of some sort with one, right? But in that moment of awakening of Marian Faithfull after a drug overdose, that was her reply to Mick Jagger. A pretty powerful and impactful statement, obviously stuck. Maybe that's what she saw, wild horses, stallions maybe, running free. Like the mention in Rod Stewart's The Wild Horse, he runs free forever on his solo record, Out of Order, which maybe it might be like really nowhere near the iconic prior song, but certainly carries a weight, and it's a distant cousin to the same principle, the definition of sight and mindset of a horse, that word, that imagery that we get. Let me take you to the definition of the very word, because that's a blow, right? A large plant-eating domesticated mammal with solid hoofs and a flowing mane, and it's tall, used for riding, racing, and to carry and pull loads. Well, that sounds like something I'd love to connect life and death with. You note my sarcasm. Wait, there's another definition. A frame or structure on which something is mounted or supported. Yeah, I don't think I've heard that muttered since my grandfather called out to me to grab the sawhorses in the garage one afternoon. He was we were gonna cut something. Band names and album titles. How could that be in this beautiful literature and figure? I think that's where this comes from. Art, the artistic, and whether it's literature or it's the drawing of something or the painting of something. And that's how the riding of the steed, the majesticism of it alone in the wild, or that first imagery of the unicorn, where that all goes from there, who only knows? Not to mention that very definition of the pulling, of the heaviness of work and what it can endure. You're starting to feel it, right? Let's get to some examples of the usage and how the horse works differently in the overall connectivity of that usage. Let's go back to 1966 as a starting point, where it seems the word horse is heavy in the military trend, right? So the Red Horse Squadron, Red Horse Airmen, and Fort Garry Horse Regiment March. The Red Horse song was delivered in January of 66 as squadrons were being deployed to Vietnam. Now, I'm not saying it's the first song that has horse or horses in it. I'm just saying this is the battle cry put together in the year of the horse. We'll fast forward to 78, 12 years later, and we get Jethro Tull's Heavy Horses. We also get Love's Trojan Horse. I mean, who can forget that bagpipe pop song? That's what we needed, right? Don't know the connection in the horse in that one. But then, Horse Trader by the Ozark Mountain Daredevils and David Bedford's composition, Song of the White Horse, which actually charts the long journey from Stone Age burial mound to the famous White Horse of Uffington. Then there's Neil Young's album, Comes a Time, where on two of the tracks he was backed by his backing band, or that band, Crazy Horse, which actually was a band, just not his backing band, who quite possibly the best named and known band utilizing the word horse. In 1978, they put out their fourth studio album, it's Crazy Moon, which Neil Young produced and played on more than half the tracks. They, of course, are named after the legendary Oglala Lakota warrior. Even in concerts, Neil will mutter or yell out something like, "Smell the horse" on this one. They are a working man's band, much like the horse. A walker among the earth, much like the Native American imagery that you get. And they have found themselves tethered to that while maintaining a heavy blues band personification along with the godfather of grunge. Of course, there are also, Bob Dylan's New Pony on Street Legal, but it's not quite a horse yet, is it? Then there's 1990 coming, where we get a Neil Young and Crazy Horse record, actually, Ragged Glory, which marked the first time an album of them together in the same year of the horse, which they would use as a title for a live record in 1997. Going to 2002, we get the album Running Horse by Poco, an EP by Horse the Band, which was called Beautiful Songs by Men, and we got the remastered version of High on a Horse by Grand Funk Railroad, and there's your reminder of how rock they were when the Road Apples were down. Now, here's the gem of the bunch, though. This is Folklore, a gothic alt-country album from 16 horsepower. It's haunting, uniquely deep for the timetable that we're speaking of. And the banjo, lingering in the darkest I've ever heard that instrument.
We met in the springtime when the blossoms unfold, the pasture's green and the meadow gold. Our love was in flower as the summer grew on, but love, like the leaves, have all withered and gone. Roses have faded and there's frost at my door. The bird of the morning won't sing anymore.
Alone and Forsaken, the song is tremendous. It's a banjo that's lingering in the darkest I've ever heard that instrument. They released a live album uniquely called Horse, H-O-A-R-S-E, for the horse kind of voice, that might be of unique interest to feel the gothic artsmanship and doomy country position in a live setting. The opening, when I was hearing it, I'm still chilled, wondering what it might have been like to see them live.
I've grown tired of the woods of the single mine, hanging lifeless on his every word. Oh, no, mine. You don't understand, dear man, the little angel out
2014, Band of Horses had enough kind of exposure at that point to get them a live record, which was acoustic. I think it was live from the Ryman. Jerusalem, the band that was originally produced in 72 by Ian Gillan, they released Black Horses. It has its moments, but nothing like that 72 album.
You were smoking a pretense cigarette. The taste of tobacco you could never forget. On your wrist was a false Rolex. You needed to hear those folk go, heck, you're so cool in an artificial way. You're so cool. Hey, hey.
And the band Dead Horses released Space and Time, which is kind of a folklorian, trailblazing pop record, which leads us to 2026. Wondering what album name, band name, or even horse might appear on the cover of some album in that time frame coming. Speaking of those covers, there's a lot of them, right? Budgie had a couple of covers dedicated to the horse. They were like Birds too, but to that mammal. And those are fantastic records. Their self-titled debut in Bandolier. Some of the more memorable, it's like Pogo's Legend, the Deftones' White Pony, Molly Hatchet's debut, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. She's actually riding a horse, and even Fish, Hoist, has a horse being hoisted. So why don't I tell you about my favorite five? My number 5 is from the band Uncle, The Road Part 1. This road does not end well, based on the cover, which is gruesome to say the least. Number 4 is a shocker, to be honest with you. It's the Beach Boys, Surf's Up. What the is going on? Don't go near the water? Why is that a dead horse and a man in there? One of the strangest album covers from one of the most peaceful bands, psychedelic-wise, maybe, underscored. My number 3 is Nothing But Thieves' debut, Nothing But Thieves. Excellent use of color and shadow with the horse on there. And then, of course, way down in the rust bucket, the iconic use of Crazy Horse and Neil Young live record. Fantastic. Just the old school running of the horse. And then, of course, And Winter Came. This is Enya, and so majestic, beautiful articulation and visual of that white horse and her in a white gown, and you just know how connected that album is. When it comes to band names, that their signature seems to be inclusive of what the nature of the animal is. I have already mentioned like Crazy Horse, and Band of Horses, but I had to pick those that I hold in that have the highest regard here for what they are. And my number 5 is actually a relatively newer band, Feeble Little Horses from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a band that's anything but. They got a heavy sonic shoegaze, Little Smashing Pumpkins. You might want to check them out. Number 4, I go to an Australian progressive rock metal band that's just something I didn't know of until like last year's record, but Caligula's Horse. Great band, great prog band. And then, of course, I put Crazy Horse. Come on. You're backing Neil Young. You have Crush and ballad and folky. They do anything well. My number 2 is a Canadian duo, husband and wife, Luke Doucette and Melissa McClelland, who have been on Unknown Sunday, and that's White Horse. And then another Unknown Sunday, I don't mind the horses too, I guess, the Four Horsemen, the heavy southern rock band. You don't want to miss them. I'll give an honorable mention to Nine Horses. It's a project of Dave Sylvian and his brother, I think. It's a very cool 2000s kind of electronically edged stuff. It's really, really good. And since we're going down the road, why not mention albums that use horse or horses in their name? What are my favorite 5? It actually was easy. I thought it would be difficult, but when it comes to number 5, this was one I had to go back to and kind of reminded of it. And it's Beating Dead Horses by a band called 16 Volt. Industrial metal. It's got this Static X-y kind of feel. It gets hit. It gets hard. It's maybe a band that might be worthy of Unknown Sundays. I don't remember anything past those 2 records. I mean, no, there are a lot more than that. The Caution Horses by Cowboy Junkies. This is an album that gets overlooked sometimes. Their alt delivery is unduplicatable, and Timmons is remarkable. Always has been. Bringing Down the Horse, of course, The Wallflowers, just a classic indie rock record with a soul to it and a lyrical delivery that connects. And obviously, with it being Dylan's son, that's not a surprise. At number 2, Educated Horses, Rob Zombie, Let It All Bleed Out, American Witch, The Lords of Salem. You could say it's frightfully right on, right? And then my number 1 is probably not going to be number 1 on anybody's list, but I just have a special connection to that record and its time and its place, and that's Belinda Carlisle's Runaway Horses. Just wonderful pop songs, ballads, and her beautiful delivery that has shades of Michelangelo on it, which is a gorgeously written song and just beautifully delivered by her. You know, whether it's Black Horse in a Cherry Tree by KT Tunstall, whether it's Dark Horse by Katy Perry, or Stupid Horse by 100 GECs, we get an imagery of some kind, even though we may not be as attached to having such an animal omnipresent in our lives unless we're filthy freaking rich. The imagery of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, that's a threatening image. It's dire, if you will, right? Certainly that... That's certainly an alluring figure and position, though we probably have never, ever seen it or a horse even that evil. I can certainly understand that calling card, though, and how it could sway bands or artists to utilize. But it's really not about the horse, is it? Right? When I think about the call of this particular mammal, it's a double-edged calling. One, they're kind of called to serve and be that testament to a working position, in that particular grueling, rewarding, not really underworldly until they get that second calling. It's the wild. They're meant to run. They're meant to gallop. They're meant to be free. And when it comes to next level of bands that are utilizing the brand, because we call it that. Horses have a brand now. How do they get branded? I didn't even think of that. Bands like Horsebath, Horse Girl, Fear of Horses, and A Pale Horse Named Death. Gee, I wonder what they sound like. What musical position or song will be creatively summoned in the name of? Maybe, though, in this century, we can finally get away from a horse with no name. Well beyond that of Mr. Ed. Join me next week for another Unknown Sundays 2026. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We've got articles, videos, podcasts coming soon, albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Have a great week. Thanks for watching.